Welcome to another episode of Euphoric, the podcast. I couldn't be more excited. I'm sitting across from Melissa, who just graduated from our Empowered AF Coach Certification program. She's an alcohol-free life coach, and what I'm so enthralled with by bringing her story to you today is how quickly this powerful woman has made such amazing transformations in her life. So, Melissa, we're going to have such juicy questions for you today, but I'm curious, can you take us back just like about over a year ago into your life where you were and bring us up to speed to where you are today?
Yeah, it's juicy for sure. About a little over a year ago, so 14 and a half months or so, was when I made the decision to remove alcohol from my life. And that came with a doctor's warning, a pretty big aha moment. I had a routine physical in August of 23, and I knew I was drinking too much. I knew that the results weren't going to be good. I was not shocked by the results of my blood test. I took it a step further and I discussed with her that I felt like I was drinking too much, and I wasn't able to say that to anyone else. I wasn't able to talk to my husband or my friends. Not yet. And I've thought if I could say anything, maybe it's to my doctor, because in the past I had been in to see her and I would have some elevated liver enzymes and she'd say, take a break from alcohol and we'll retest. So she had some awareness. I visited her at one point when I was 4 months alcohol free and I felt amazing and I said I was done with it, right? So she was kind of always a little bit aware of my journey. And this time it was like, this is going on and I'm not sure what to do about it. And I even brought up the fact that I had heard in the media that semaglutides, Ozempic and Jardiance and whatnot could be helpful in alcohol addiction, that they could curb the cravings. And she had also heard that, but she said, you don't qualify because you're not diabetic. Well, so she took my blood tests and they were across the board the worst that I've ever had in my 51 years of age. My liver enzymes were at the absolute highest they've ever been. They never got above 100. And that's a number that lies in the 5 and 40 range, right? Never in the past got to be 100. And mine were one was high 100s and low 300s. So that was one thing. My cholesterol was up. My glucose, my A1C, here I was pre-diabetic for about 9 years, and now I was teetering on that diabetic range. My blood pressure, my weight, I mean, it was just across the board. And she sent me an email and said, unless you make drastic behavioral changes, I'm going to have to put you on medication. And it was a wake-up call to me. And I wrapped my head around the fact that I didn't want to, I didn't want that for my life. I didn't want to be like so many other Americans on medication for cholesterol, for blood pressure, for diabetes. I just didn't. And I said, the only way that I am going to reverse these numbers is if I remove alcohol. I knew that in the bottom of my heart because I'd done that in the past and it had helped. And so I had to really come to terms with the fact that I was not a moderate drinker. I never have been. I've played that game. I've played that moderation game for years and years and years. I tried really hard to be a moderate drinker, believe me, but I wasn't. And I had to say, okay, this is what your life needs to be like. And I literally hit the ground walking. I don't run too much, but I laced up my shoes. I started walking all over New York City, Riverside Park, Central Park, just walking on the street. I started cutting back things from my diet, cheese, right? Cholesterol is a big cheese, and you know that's not helpful for high cholesterol. Um, the pastas, the refined carbohydrates, I cut them out. I changed my diet. I started moving my body, and I didn't drink alcohol. And within like 3 weeks, I started feeling really good. I started feeling good. And I always feel like, as a coach now, when I talk to my clients, I want to give them like, let's give this thing a shot. Let's make small goals, maybe 7, 10 days. But I feel like once we get to 21 days, like some real good change starts to happen. And it certainly did for me. I went back to this doctor 11 weeks after I saw her, just under a month. I mean, just under 3 months, because that's what she wanted. She wanted to see if I was up for making these changes. I went back, I was down 30 pounds. My A1C was no longer in the pre-diabetic zone. My cholesterol, I know you appreciate this because we have this in common, dropped 50 points. 50. And I felt like a new woman. I felt, I don't know how many years younger. I mean, I had energy. I was sleeping. Oh my God, the sleep. Not initially, because getting alcohol out of your system can take like a good 7, 10 days. But the sleeping and the moving my body and the just feeling good in my skin. And in my head, I knew that there was just no more room for alcohol. There wasn't. Whereas in the past, I would cut it out, go back, get my blood work, good blood work. Let's go home and celebrate with a bottle of wine, right? That wasn't on the table. Nothing in my head said that was what I should do. I knew that this was just the beginning of building a life that I wanted to live in. And so that's what I just kept doing that. I just kept going. I found ways to keep me on track. I found communities. I found a program of yours, Become Emboldened. Quite honestly, Karolina, I had no idea what that program was when I signed up for it. Because all I really thought about was having something to keep me on track, right? To keep me not thinking about alcohol, to keep me just strong and moving forward and still building momentum. So when we sat in those meetings in those early days, and it turned into like, what do you want to do with your life? I remember thinking, oh my, like, uh, but I was there for it. And it actually turned into um, one of the greatest gifts ever, because at the time I was an elder caregiver, which was amazing and fulfilling. And I felt like I really had a place in my heart and soul to do that with families. Did it fulfill me for the rest of my life? Was it something I was going to be passionate about? And not really. And I knew at that point that coaching, sober, alcohol-free coaching, was a thing where I had never known that before. And maybe if I had, I would have, gotten on this journey a lot sooner, who knows? But that led me to realize that that's something I wanted to do, because I think I could be really good at it. And one thing led to the next, and before you know it, I'm in your coaching cohort. I'm starting a sober Instagram, and I'm building momentum in a space that's brand new to me, yet felt so organic and natural and what I was meant to be doing.
Oh, Melissa, you are giving me chills, so many goosebumps. Your story is so remarkable. I think there's so many things to unpack there, but even just the health things that are so inspiring. Like, I think we have a true disservice done to us in our society to think that alcohol is like really this ancillary thing that may help your heart or may have this effect or not. And it's so much part of the bigger domino of health. Like, we really truly don't know, I think, as a society, how much it affects all of the numbers you just talked about, and that is what's dictating our true health and our true wellness and how on track we are either towards disease or towards a healthy life. And I'm so glad your doctor was more savvy to that and actually encouraging you to do that, because so many doctors wouldn't even look into it. They might only look into it if like you're presenting with like, a breakfast vodka kind of problem. And so I just think that's so remarkable for anyone listening to this episode. If like, your cholesterol scares, you're having, high glucose scares, if all these kind of things, which are happening to us as we're getting older, it's a kind of a normal part, that you actually have so much agency. You have so much control over this area. And, whether or not alcohol is the like 90% contributor to most of them, what happens is when you remove alcohol, all the other lifestyle stuff becomes so much easier, right? The walking, the, not
Yes.
eating these kind of foods and stuff like that. But I think what's even more amazing, because I'm more interested, I think for me personally, like I'm a emotional, intellectual type person that like I think the health stuff is so great and so life-changing. But I think like what was this so inspiring about your story too is like just the difference in your mental attitude. Right? Like I've
Yeah.
seen pictures of like your before and after, and like the spark and the power and the sizzle and the fire and the passion is so alive in you. And I love sharing the story of how you decided to now share this transformation with other people. So I'm curious, like, how did you find, as over the last year and a year or so, essentially, how did you find those changes in your mental state? How did you find the like confidence coming back to you, the courage to try something so new for yourself? And like you're slaying it. For those of you who don't know, Melissa is like appearing on other top podcasts, she's signing clients. Like, really, it's so remarkable how much can change in just a year. But what do you think those differences were for you?
It was, it was getting back in touch with the confident woman I knew I used to be. I have been at times in my life, except there was this other level that was upping the game. And that was the secret sauce, the secret life hack, that I didn't have to drink alcohol to feel that confidence, that, delusional confidence that comes with drinking alcohol, right? It's like a secret elixir that gives us, you know, of higher stature, of, makes us stand up taller, all those things. And it's such a misconception. It's really the opposite. It's really the opposite, because anyone can do that. Anyone can drink. Look at all the people that drink, right? It takes a real badass to remove it and live life without it in a world that's obsessed with it. And I mean, I've just gotten to the point in my life where I I not only have the right to advocate for it, I have a duty to
Mm.
advocate. It makes me emotional thinking about it, but I really believe that. I really believe that I was put on this planet right now to tell people that they can have a big, beautiful, full life without alcohol.
Well, so that makes everything so worth it. And I think that when we really lean into that conviction, that purpose, that knowing that like this didn't just happen to me randomly. This is my purpose. This is my gift to share. It's so not about us, I work with so many coaches as you know too, who are building businesses, and it's like, "Oh, I don't know if I should put myself out there, or I don't know what to say, or I'm scared of selling or launching." And, for anyone who's a business owner, it's like if you start with the conviction and the purpose and the God-given gift first, oh, all that stuff becomes so much easier. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that removes you out of the picture, because it's not about you. It's like almost selfish to be so worried about us and how we're coming across. And did I say the sales psychology right? And all that kind of stuff. It's like, dude, it's not about you. You are a vessel, and this
Yeah.
beautiful God-given message was given to you to change those lives. Like that is your duty, like you said. And I love that, because I believe that 100%. I'm so curious, is there like anything that happened in your journey, to even lead you into kind of feeling that way, or even to get into like the pattern of drinking more than you wanted to? Like, what's going on
Yeah.
there?
Um, yeah, that's a big part of my deeper why, is that In the pandemic, like for a lot of us, things just ramped up. It was hard to be home. I had teenage kids at the time. It was just a very unnatural thing. And being in New York was very scary. I mean, there were refrigerated trucks on the streets that housed dead bodies. Like this was a reality in New York City. And I had a friend, a very good friend, my best friend in the whole world, my T. Scott. He lived in Ohio at the time. And um, he's who I moved to New York with. He said, if you want to try this acting thing, which I did years ago, you have to come to the city and you have to live there and give it a good shot. And so we'd been friends for 27 years. He was the man of honor in my wedding, and he saw both of my babies' first days in the world. And he also had a drinking problem. Um, he was HIV positive, so he was on a slew of medications, and he also drank a lot. And in the pandemic, he was kind of in and out of rehabs and trying to make a go of it. And it was hard. We couldn't see each other. So it was hard to really know what was going on. And in July of 21, we spoke on the phone, and he had told me that his organs, his liver, his kidneys were failing him, and that he was not going to live a long life. And that didn't surprise me. I felt awful about it. Um, it just, his body couldn't handle what was going on. And for the next 10 months, we spoke regularly. I really wanted to see him. The bans were lifted. I could have flown, and he didn't want me to see him in the state he was in. He was sober, and he went into the hospital for a routine procedure. When you have alcohol use disorder, it's not pretty. Your body swells up with ammonia, and you have to go in and get it drained regularly. And I would ask him about that. Does it hurt? And he didn't want to trouble other people with his problems. He was so optimistic. He was on a transplant list. He had all the things going, and he went into the hospital that April for a routine procedure. And he had sepsis, and he had pneumonia, and he spent 6 days in the hospital, and he didn't come out. So as he was in the hospital, the writing was on the wall. I knew that I couldn't go see him because he would have hated that. He would have hated for me to see him in that state. He was very vain. And so I respected that, and I didn't go. I just prayed, and I said to myself, I almost went because I thought, do I need to see what a person dying of alcohol use disorder looks like? Do I need to see that? Will that like scare me, shock me into getting my act together? Because my drinking was ramping up big time. I didn't go see him, and for the next 15, 16 months, I didn't get better. I didn't. It was the opposite.
Yeah.
He wasn't here, so he couldn't do the things I could, right? He couldn't eat the rich foods and all the desserts and sit around and watch repeats of television shows I've seen millions of times. He couldn't drink wine. I could have wine delivered to my apartment in less than 30 minutes. A case of wine could show up. I went down this spiral, this awful place, and yet I kept a smile on my face. I kept functioning. I kept showing up to my job. I didn't lose my relationships. I live in New York. There were no DUIs. There were no crazy rock bottoms, interventions. It was just a woman drinking her wine too much. And in the summer of 23, I started waking up in the morning feeling like, I wonder what would happen if I didn't get out of bed.
Mm.
And this is something that this woman has never experienced. I've never experienced that in my 51 years. And it scared me. And I knew exactly why I was thinking that way. I knew exactly why. Alcohol is a depressant, right? It's it keeps us down, it keeps us small, it keeps us sad and depressed and anxious. And it didn't shock me that I was thinking that, it shocked me that I was thinking that, but it didn't shock me that that's where it was coming from. I knew what I was doing to myself. It scared me. And I would look at pictures of myself. I mean, you've seen the before and afters. I would look at these pictures, and in the past I would see pictures and I would think, "Oh my God, what are you doing? You got to get your act together. This isn't okay." But now I was looking at these pictures and I was saying, maybe that's just the way it's meant to be.
Mm.
Maybe that's just the way I'm supposed to live my life, as a heavy drinker who takes comfort in eating pie and cake and rosé and pasta, and that was scary. That was more scary than the actual image. That was scary. And that wasn't me. And so when I went to my doctor and those things happened, the mental side was aligning with the physical side. And it was the number one thing was the alcohol. And just like you said, I knew once I removed it, it would be a catalyst for change in every part of my life. Now, at first, I just thought physical change, which was obvious. But the mental change, the clarity, the what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to be when I grow up? I'm 53 years old now, and I'm so excited about where my life is going. I can't wait. I can't wait to live the rest of my life. And I haven't felt that in a long, long time.
Well, Melissa, watching you, I'm getting teary-eyed watching you with the conviction and the purpose. Like, I think you are one of the most powerful, strongest women I've ever met. I think you have this authentic passion and joy and fire to share. And it's almost hard when you see you and you're listening to you and you're watching you even imagine this woman who is so held up with that kind of defeatism, right? Like, it's almost like I cannot put them together because to me, this is like the embodiment, the most authentic version of you. Like, this is the true Melissa. And I can't even, identify how that defeated woman who is just going to stay stuck and, think that that's her life, like how that was like a shell of you, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's such an interesting, concept for any of us because I remember having a similar thought. It wasn't so much around like the drinking per se, but I remember like in my mid 20s, I was working as an administrative assistant. And a lot of people who were working in that type of a job had a really like easy job, right? You just show up, you kind of sit in front of a computer for 8 hours and you go home. And there was a part of me that like was like, well, maybe this is just what I'll do for life. Like maybe I won't aspire to anything more. Maybe I'll just stay here, make it the easy paycheck and stuff like that. And I'm like, just like, you just want to grab that version of you and shake
Yeah.
them and be like, you have so much more to live for. You are so much better than this. And I think what's so inspiring about your story is that just from the power of that storytelling, that before and after, like you're giving another woman permission to do the same, permission to snap the F out of it
Yeah.
and get back on her power seat, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. I feel like if I can do it, anyone can. If I can do it at my age and the way I was feeling, and it's possible. It really is. And that is what brings me joy right now, to spread that message, whether it's one-on-one coaching or speaking in front of a crowd of people, which is next on my list of things to do. I mean, it's fuels me. I get up in the morning, I think about it, I go to bed at night, and I'm grateful for another day of not drinking and being my most authentic self.
We will be lining up to see you on stage as Melissa. Like you're gonna bring the whole audience to tears and wake them to the power that they truly have. You said something really recently to me that I thought was so amazing because it just goes to show the power of like really leaning into your own self-discovery, your own transformation, and how that can be a gift that you therefore give to other people. So you said to me the other day that like before, you started this journey, you didn't know what a limiting belief was, and that now you are a sleuth in finding that. So tell me a little bit more about that. And just for our audience, let's just pretend we're doing like a 101. Like, what is a limiting belief to you? And like, how do you know when you're speaking to someone that they're falling into that trap?
Yeah, um, another aha moment, right? I didn't know what a limiting belief was 10 months ago. I'd never even heard that phrase. And yet here I was living limiting beliefs. Limiting belief is something you tell yourself that you can't do. And for XYZ reasons, right? I mean, if we're talking about alcohol, one thing that I get from my clients is, will I have fun again? Will I have fun without alcohol? Like you want to talk about a limiting belief, and let's get curious about that. Like, what does that look like? Is that saying like you only have fun because you're drinking alcohol? Clearly, there's got to be more to it, right? So, we rip it apart, we dissect it, we get curious, and um, those limit and now my ear, like I told you, I'm attuned to them like a wrong note. Because as a trained singer, I I can hear a note that's flat or sharp. And now I'm that way with limiting beliefs. I mean, I can hear them in one of my sober meetings. I can hear them on the subway. My mom is full of them. I can even hear them within myself, right? When I second guess something that I should or shouldn't be doing. And I'm like, hold on a second. Like, let's think about that. Why are we immediately going there with, oh, that's just going to be a waste of time? Like, let's stop and let's get curious and really think about it and break it down. Because I think, like, when you go into situations with an open heart, an open mind, that you're just more susceptible to good things coming your way. If you go into situations closed off, negative, it's never going to happen, then that's what you're going to get, right? So for me, I hear those now, and it's like a light bulb moment. And of course, I can't like call strangers out on the train, but I think in my head, aha, limiting belief. But I can call my clients out on it, absolutely, because they don't, like you say, a jar cannot read its own label, right? So they don't even hear that. They go about their business thinking, that's a waste of time. No, hold on a sec. Hold on a sec. What if you reframe it? What if you go into that situation thinking you're gonna kick some ass, right? It changes your whole demeanor. It changes your whole presence. And it's just it's such a good way to live life. Like it's just a positive way to live life, and things come back to you when you start living your life like that. I truly believe that.
So good, right? I think it's so true when anything that's bringing us that negative feeling, I'm going to say maybe 97% of the time that limiting belief is false, right? And because we literally do not perceive reality as the truth of reality, like a human brain cannot do that. We are always perceiving just a perception of reality. There's no way for us to say that is 100% fundamentally true, especially if it's bringing
Right.
us negative feelings and like putting us down and keeping us stuck and stuff like that. And I love the word you used earlier of being like delusional, right? Because like if you can choose what to believe and what to think, why not think that it's all going to work out for you and act that way and go for things that way? And just look at the difference in your own embodiment of the version of you today versus the version of you, even just a little as over a year ago. And I think that's
Yeah.
really, really powerful. I'm really curious when it comes to your coaching business. I know it's easy to like want to be for everyone and everything, but like if you were going to specify the ideal client that you were here meant to work with on this planet, What's going on with her? Who is she? What are her challenges? What are her issues? What are her passions? Like, who is your ideal client to work with?
Ooh, that's a big question. I think my ideal client is someone who is open and ready for change and open to look at things differently, to embrace things maybe in a way they wouldn't, to keep an open mind, and to change these old habits, these things that aren't working for them, and to step into their power, step into their role of, I use this word badass all the time, and my kids cringe every single time. Every single time I say it. Mom, that's an old lady word to use. And I'm like, well, if the shoe fits. But it is true. Like, doing things that make you feel confident and make you feel strong and make you feel like a badass. Like, I got it on my necklace right here. I've got jewelry. I've got t-shirts. Like, just do it. Like, have that conviction that this is the way you want your life to move forward. And then we're gonna work together to overcome those hurdles that are coming up for you. And a lot of coaches take different shifts with, their niche is might be something different than being alcohol free. For me, it was a no-brainer. Like, that is the thing that changed my life. And talking about the health and exercise, I try to blend that in too when they're ready, because I do realize that I am not the typical person that quits drinking. Like, if you need to quit drinking and start eating sweets, then do it, right? For me, maybe it's like the all or nothing mentality. When I quit drinking, I had to do all of the things that went along with it, to feel like I was really making change. And I don't tell my clients they have to do that. I work with them, but I do want to see them get there. We work with small goals, and we implement them, and we move through them. And because small goals lead to bigger goals, lead to bigger dreams. And yeah, that's my ideal kind. Ready for work and ready for change and ready to be a badass.
Ready for a 180?
Yep,
Well, I
100%.
think I think your story is going to relate to a lot of people, who maybe are going through their own health scares and maybe have had this conversation with their doctor too. It's like these little pieces that might align us together, or maybe someone else who lives in a city who really relates to some of that part of your story, or was in theater or singing as well. I think that's what really brings us together, those connection points, and then that leadership that you have now, that real beautiful conviction that you will stand beside that person and not allow them to fall into these BS limiting beliefs and really see
Mhm.
their glory and their power in them too. Melissa, we had a chance to meet each other this
Yes.
fall, earlier this fall at our artist certification retreat. And that, just for anyone listening, is one of the most incredible, I think, experiences of the certification program, is that you get certified in 5 modalities before this retreat. Then we go on a retreat and get to meet each other that we've been working with each other for so long. We have a great time there. And then we continue on in our business mastermind. But tell me a little bit of what that experience was for you, and kind of like meeting in the flesh some of the women that you'd been working with for months before that, and just kind of getting away to like not only an alcohol-free retreat, but also the entrepreneur together. Like, how did that kind of shift your identity and your approach and your fire to the next level?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, if you ever get the chance to meet other alcohol-free people, do it, whether it's a retreat or a meetup group that you organize in your city, because there's a common bond, there's just a centeredness and a groundedness that comes with that. When a friend you've only seen on Zoom turns to you and says, "Isn't it great?" And I said, "What? Isn't it great not drinking?" I was like, yes, yes, it is great. And so it was really wonderful to because I had, some relationships were forming really nicely through Instagram and our Zoom meetings. And so to meet those people in real life and to hug them and hold on to them was very special. For me on a personal level, I had such a breakthrough there, Karolina. I did. Telling my T. Scott story, like when we talked about our bigger why, it was like he his death has made me start living my life. His death has propelled me forward in my own life. And so, and I scribbled it down, I have to get to the point, and I am getting there, that I have to view his death as a gift that he gave me in order to live my life fulfilled and forward and open without drinking alcohol, because that is what he would want. He was always my biggest cheerleader, and that's exactly what he would want. So he is my biggest why. He's with me all the time. And I know he would get such a kick out of it. Talking to all these people, still his name is in the headlines. He's down front, center stage with a spotlight on him still. And that's just the way it's going to be. It has to be that way because he is a driving force in my decision to overcome this poison. Yeah.
I think it's one thing as a society, we put strong women up on a pulpit and think that they're bragging or that they're being too bossy or too leader, whatever. And what I really see though is that when someone goes through this kind of transformation and lands into her power, what she's really doing is giving permission to other women to do the same. And so,
Absolutely.
through your own, story and embodiment of this, like T. Scott is empowering thousands and thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of other women. And I know his legacy is going to keep living on. And it's truly an honor and a privilege that, he almost, like you said, it's like a sacrifice that he did so that your legacy can live on, and that will touch so many people. And that just, if this story touched you today, anyone who's listening to this, I just want you to know that this is the way that we can make meaning out of the things that happen to us in life, and we can truly find that deeper why and that conviction. And if we're not here to help people on this planet, if like that's not our purpose, like I can't fathom what it is. You know what I mean? And for you to be able to go through such a painful loss, and lose someone that important to you and come out on the other side like this, like truly you are giving so many people that gift as well to do the same, to see you and say, if she did it, then I can do it. So, you guys, if this story was touching to you, if you know that Melissa is the badass coach you want to work with as well, I definitely encourage you to please look her up. Send her a DM, start a conversation with her. She's an amazing lady. Melissa, where can people find you? Where can they learn about you? And is there any offers that you're doing in the recent future for us to know about?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at The Sober New Yorker. I have a website of the same name, thesobernewyorker.com. And I am gearing up for a launch of a Dry January Brave Badass Club.
Yes.
And I'm looking for a group of women. I think women, although I'm open to a man sneaking in there. We'll see. We'll talk about that. Who are sick of their own shit and they want to give this sober, alcohol-free thing a try. And it's group coaching, but with everyone who signs up, I'm offering a one-on-one session with me that comes with it. So that is, only 2 months away. And I would encourage people to start thinking about that now. If people start coaching with me now, they will automatically be included in that club. Because 3 months from now, we're looking at the end of January. And I like to say, how amazing would it be to go into February 1st with 3 months of alcohol freedom under your belt? So that's me. And yeah, reach out, send a DM, send me an email. I would love to hear from anyone who wants to reach out. I love getting DMs. It makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing, still, spreading my message. And because we're not alone at the end of the day, we're not alone. None of us are. And it helps to get the shame out. Shame can't live when it's out in the open, and we're talking about it and we're coming together to share. So I'd love to hear from you.
Brilliant. Well, we'll be sure to include all of that in the show links below. So do find that below so you can reach out to Melissa, DM her, tell her how much this episode meant to you, if it was really touching to you. I know Melissa will appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being in the show. Thank you so much for being part of my inner circle for the last year or so. It's been such a joy to watch you grow. I mean, thinking back to not even knowing what Become Emboldened was, to seeing you as such a powerful coach now. I mean, what a transformation, Melissa. You are going to just shoot to the moon, get on those stages, transform so many lives, and we're all here rooting for you.
Thank you, Karolina. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.